afraid I've got some bad news. I knew it. I love when he does that.
They won't even, these fucking people, they're like Trumpers. They're so fucking far up the ass, and they're so delusional, and they just can't admit that they were wrong, and they've been hornswoggled and taken for suckers and taken for a ride all along. There's people trying to say, well, it was entertaining. No, not in any way, shape, or form. It was insulting to wrestling. It diminished your capacity to do future business by not only making Jericho look even more stupid than he's already made himself look over the past several months, but now you've got MJF with shit all over his face, too. If you found entertainment in this, you might be one of those people that likes to have their fucking balls nailed to a step stool. And I don't know what to think about anybody anymore, but I will be less free and easy as I have been with my endorsements and accolades or allocades from this point forward. What the, just because I'm sure Jericho thought of this, just because he thought, well, oh, it would be funny. Just take your dick out, Chris, and just jack off on Tony Khan's face while he's there. Because you've just raped him and ripped him off of all this other money he spent on this fucking company that started out looking like you were going to carry it and now is looking like you're going to sink it.
He likes this just as much as these idiots like doing it.
That's what I'm saying. While he's at this, take his dick out of his pants, jack off on Tony Khan's face, and splooge in his eye. You're showing him, even if he's too stupid and immature and inexperienced and lost in the weeds as a goddamn wrestling observer, Mark, instead of a fan of wrestling, that he can't see, that he can't book, and he's wasting his father's money, and that this is all a goddamn variety of horse shit that's going to lead to nothing but wrestling never getting on national cable again for the next 20 years. Just because he can't realize that doesn't mean that Chris Jericho, who knows better, has to fucking splooge in his face, waste his money, and fucking make fun of his own fucking product at the same time while he's doing it. I feel sorry for Tony Khan when shit like this comes up on his television program.
I don't feel sorry for him at all. He's running his wrestling company the same way he runs his dad's football team and soccer team. It's just that wrestling fans, the super niche audience, are more forgiving because they like some of this stupid stuff. This is all Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has some of the stupidest instincts in terms of entertainment of anyone in the history of the wrestling business. And his 2020 has been an embarrassment. And remember when I said last year that this is the Jericho show and he's the star here and he will carry this and get it over if it's going to be got over?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 229 of the Hoots Podcast. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. It's Happy Halloween week. I'm chilling here right now on a Thursday afternoon. It's October 29th. How ironic, how apropos for this week's show, right? Hope everybody's having a good week. It is just truly the nefarious Brother Adam. You can follow me at Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. I'm also on Instagram, Joshie Lopez 94. That's Joshie Lopez 94. And I also have a music page on Instagram if you'd like to see me do some cool guitar covers. It's called Josh Lopez Music. I'm trying to put this week into proper context because we got a lot to talk about this week. And I really don't know how we follow up last week's edition of What the Hell is Wrong with AEW, but we'll give it a try this week. It may be more tame, but you never know. What the Hell is Wrong with AEW has really been gaining a lot of momentum and steam on social media over the last couple weeks, especially on Twitter, and I really do appreciate the feedback you guys give for that segment. It was never really a goal of myself or Brett Carter to have a weekly segment where we actually just point out what's actually happening with AEW as opposed to what the wrestling media tells you. But that's the thing with the Hoots Podcast. We hold nothing back. We speak from the heart. We're not looking to fit in with people. We let our work speak for ourselves, and we call a spade a spade. At the same time, I want to remind everybody that this podcast is about embracing and enjoying the full aspect of the entire pro wrestling business. None of the rants I've ever done about AEW has been about booking. It's been strictly about in-ring content and just the product as a whole. And yeah, we'll have a new segment for you. It's not going away. I always the eternal optimist in me. It's always holding out hope that we come in here and like, hey, we got nothing to really rag on at AEW, but hey, AEW's good AEW, right? If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you so much for giving this podcast a chance. All I ask is for you guys to subscribe to the podcast right now so you never miss an episode. It comes to you free of charge on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, anywhere you get your podcast from. And especially for those who would like to help us expand the reach of the podcast, please, if you could, especially those who use Apple Podcasts, leave us a 4 or 5 star review and rating on Apple Podcasts. Tell us what you like about the podcast. Tell us your favorite part of this podcast. Is it What the Hell is Wrong with AEW? Is it the Thoughts of Dericho? Is it just the general podcast as a whole? Do you like the intro clips that I put together in the beginning? Let us know what you like or even dislike. What could we improve on? I'm always open to suggestions and feedback when it comes to the Hoots Podcast. And it's not just my podcast. It's Brother Carter's podcast. It's all the good brothers and sisters, especially you, who listen to the podcast each every single week. It's your podcast. And I'm here to provide a entertaining, positive escape from a lot of the nonsense that we're dealing with in our daily lives. And I know things are going to get very intense and anxiety-ridden in the next week or so with the election around the corner. But I made a promise to myself during this election season that I was not going to really get into the whole politics. Like, you know, I had a question a couple weeks ago about police form and should the police be defunded or whatever. But outside of that, I really did not want to have this podcast really dig on the election. I did that in the beginning in 2016 when we first started this podcast, and it just wasn't fun. This is a life podcast. It's also a wrestling podcast too. So I'm sure you guys had your fill of the election. All I'll say is that make sure to vote. Let your voice be heard and leave it at that. So we're not going to come in opine about politics on this show. We just don't have the time or energy for that. One last piece of business to plug really quick. Make sure to bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. That's my baby. That's my website where I transcribe basically every domestically based U.S. television show, whether it's WWE, AEW, or Impact Wrestling. Also, I jot down what happens on NXT UK. Also cover all the events for New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. And make sure to check out ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. This week's been very interesting, wrestling-wise. We had 2 pay-per-views. We had a special television show last night on USA Network, dubbed Halloween Havoc. And this week of wrestling has just been very interesting in a lot of different ways. I put this post on Facebook this morning that, being a transcriber, there's things to look out for when it comes to wrestling matches. Some things you may not expect. Maybe a promo segment that doesn't make sense. Maybe a sequence that doesn't make sense. Or just AEW tag team matches that are all over the place, like a labyrinth puzzle. A labyrinth maze. But honestly, this week, I've seen people get slammed into a pile of candy corn thumbtacks that came out of a bag. I've seen Dungeons and Dragons dice beats spilled around the ring in another no DQ match. I saw a wrestling show on YouTube that was 2.5 hours long with 15 matches. I seen Scream come back. Hey folks, it's the late 90s again. Scream is back in attacking people on NXT last night. Then, of course, we had the Haunted House of Terror, and this all hell's breaking loose. Look, I know it's Halloween this week, but hell, man, when you're trying to focus on trying to get moves right and making these sequences look good on the website and the transcription and trying to do justice with the performers and the stories they're trying to tell in the ring, and then you're seeing this stuff, and then I can't forget we had a wedding on Impact Wrestling this week, an undead wedding that ended with somebody getting shot. So, welcome to the wacky world of professional wrestling in 2020, man. So, with that being said, I don't think we could go lower than Ladina Dibba crap that we saw last week. So, I think we're making progress. So, let's have some fun, alright? Let's start this bad boy off with the Good Brother Q&A session as we do each and every single week. If you'd like to send yours truly a question, all you have to do is either tweet me at the Hoots Podcast or email me thehootspodcast@gmail.com. And we're going to start off with who we always start off with this segment, the good brother Chris Zaletta. Make sure to follow him on the Twitters at XTeamZaletta24X. He is a good brother of all good brothers. Here is Chris's list of questions this week. He says, "What's up, Oos? Here's some questions for the show this week. Number 1, does Roman need the bloodline stable? Me personally, I don't think he does. Let him be his own man. I don't think Roman Reigns needs a stable. I know a lot of people have fantasy booked the fact that you could have the Usos and Roman Reigns, and you could have this second coming of the Samoan SWAT team or the Dangerous Alliance, and I'm sure maybe Roman in some way would want to have that group with him, but I think Roman Reigns as being the tribal chief of pro wrestling and everybody being beneath him is what we should focus on right now. And look, there may be a possibility that the Usos are working with them. I'm not saying it wouldn't work. For me, I just don't think that Roman needs a stable to justify his positioning right now as the Universal Champion. And I always tell people this: let's go through this week by week. Let's not try to jump into scenarios where we're gonna end up being disappointed. So, next question: should Thunder Rosa remain with AEW or go to NXT/WWE? I think Thunder Rosa should go to WWE because WWE gives women time in the ring and focus on their shows. So I'll say WWE. Okay, here we go. Here's the next one. Royal Rumble winners for both men's and women's for 2021. Oh boy. One of my answers is going to surprise everybody, especially those who listen to the podcast each and every single week. For the women, I'm going with Bayley to win the Royal Rumble match. Now for the men, where do we go? Who's the champion at the time? Is Randy Orton still the WWE champion? Is Roman the WWE champion? Is this pandemic over? There's a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of different options to go here. For me personally, I would like to see Kevin Owens win the Royal Rumble. But internally, and what I think would happen is that Edge comes back and wins the Royal Rumble match. So that's my prediction. Yes. Alright. Top guy in NXT currently. For me, I don't know if I would say top guy, but just my personal favorite, the guy I look forward to watching and covering the most on NXT is Damian Priest. Not just because he's a Barican Oos, but it counts. Damian Priest is the fucking man. He's awesome. What do you think of the WWF versus WCW/ECW angle back in 2001? You know what, guys? This is the first time I've ever had a chance to talk about the invasion angle, the infamous invasion angle that didn't pan out the way everybody wanted it to back during the Attitude Era, pal. Alright, Chris, this is my thoughts on the invasion angle. I was 7 years old at the time. This is when I was really, really getting into wrestling right at the beginning stage. I started watching it in 98, but this is the time period where I was starting to process what was actually happening on these shows. And this is the biggest deal, right? WCW just folded, WWE purchased the licensing and everything of WCW and ECW. The selfish performers decided to cling onto their contracts instead of going to WWE. Eventually, Goldberg and the NWO showed up, and we'd all know what happened with the invasion angle. I liked it for the most part. I'll tell you this: the finale, the Survivor Series match that closed the invasion angle, I thought is one of my favorite Survivor Series matches of all time. The one from 2001 is still out there, one of my favorite Survivor Series matches. The Invasion pay-per-view itself is a really good pay-per-view. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out on the WWE Network. You truly won't regret checking that one out. Obviously, it's had its flaws and missed opportunities. Also, there's been reasons that were out of WWE's control. I felt a little bit on and off with the whole Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he's going to be with WCW /ECW, even though Steve got fired by WCW. And it was just, I think the fact that the Stone Cold heel turn didn't work out to everybody's imagination, that's probably one of the main reasons why the invasion angle just didn't click for what it was. And that's not a slight on Steve. Everybody says that Stone Cold Steve Austin is the greatest superstar of all time. I may disagree with that, but I think Stone Cold turning heel, just that decision, and people still trying to cheer for him and not knowing what was going to happen, I think that also played a big part of the invasion angle falling flat, as opposed to just, Eric Bischoff and Sting and Goldberg and the NWO weren't here, so it wasn't really the invasion angle. That was out of WWE's control. They bought the company. The other towns that signed the big contracts in turn, they decided to take the money. So, what would you do in that situation? Make sure to check out that Survivor Series match. That was fucking awesome. Next question. Which team do you hate the most in the NFC North? This is an easy one. This is because it has family ties as well. I can't stand the Packers. I can't stand Packer fans. They come out, they're pumping out their chest every single year, acting like they're the shit, even though they haven't won a Super Bowl since 2010. Every year I have to hear about Aaron Rodgers and the Packers being the dangerous team, even after the fact that they continue to get embarrassed on the NFC championship stage season after season after season after season. It doesn't matter if it's the Giants. It doesn't matter if it's the Falcons. It doesn't matter if it's the 49ers. The Packers are overrated. Their franchise is not overrated. I don't take anything away from the success they had. You know, they had a bribery of riches of quarterbacks, and I respect Aaron Rodgers for what he does on the field, but as a person, he's a jackass. And secondly, I just don't care for their colors. If it wasn't for the Packers, nobody would give two shits about Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's a dump. I've been there before. It's just a pure and utter dump. So, honestly, that's the team that I hate the most. For me, I'm personally indifferent to the Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings. They can do whatever they want to do. But I think Packer fans are more annoying than just the Packer team. That's probably the most disdain I have from my point of view. By the way, I got uncles from my mom's side of family and cousins that are Packer fans, so they get a little mouthy at times. Favorite sports commentator / play-by-play guy? Well, I always been a big fan of Jim Nantz. I always like Jim Nantz calls on the NFL games. You know, I think Kevin Harlan's kind of an underrated NFL play-by-play guy. I know he has all the accolades from the NBA, but I think Kevin Harlan does a great job on NFL games as well. I always been a big Stacey King fan. Those who are fans of the Chicago Bulls that are listening to this podcast, you guys know who Stacey King is. Always been a fan of Neil Funk as well. So I can't be remiss without mentioning Hawk Harrison. I'm a huge Chicago White Sox fan, and he's one of the greatest play-by-play guys of all time as well. And I can't forget my favorite play-by-play guy in the city of Chicago of all time, Jeff Joniak. There you go. Hester to 10, 5. Devin Hester, you are ridiculous. So Jeff Joniak from WBBM is my favorite play-by-play guy in sports. All right, next question. Which championship looks worse, the 60-game season Dodgers World Series or the Miami Heat's lockout season championship? That's so hard to say because it's so new. By the way, congrats to the Dodgers and your irresponsible asses for winning the World Series and then celebrating with a guy who's positive with COVID-19 in live action. So, I'll be honest, guys. I did not care about the Miami Big Three era. I didn't. I've never been a big fan of super teams. I just didn't care for that team. Yeah, it might salty for the fact that the Bulls weren't able to win the championship that season, even though they were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference that lockout season. Yes, I'm bummed out about that, but still. You know, I'll just probably say for the Dodgers, because, like, how irresponsible and ignorant can you be to actually have somebody play in a game-clinching game that's positive for COVID-19? I don't get it, man. First place you traveled to after this pandemic? Oh, man, that's a good question. Okay, I have two places. The first one is Oviedo, Florida. And second place is Sacramento, so I could go see my sister. That would be my answer for that. All right. And then the final question from Chris. Thank you for your questions again, bro. You always deliver, man. Go-to candy on Halloween. My go-to candy is two options. I'll go with either Swedish Fish or Kit Kats. Those are my two favorites. Kit Kats or Swedish Fish. And also on the side, Reese's Pieces, Halloween colors, obviously. Well, of course, that's all Reese's Pieces look like. You guys get the point. But yeah, my go-to candy is Swedish Fish or Kit Kats. So thank you again, Chris, for the questions. We're going to transition to questions from the good brother Nate the Great. You can follow him on Twitter at Psycho Nagiri. Nate the Great, good brother since the Pipe Bomb days. Here we go. Do you think we'll ever see a tag team match, main event WrestleMania again, or main event Wrestle Kingdom? I don't remember the last tag team match to main event a WrestleMania. I don't know if there's ever been a tag team match outside of the first one with Hogan and Mr. T against Piper and Piper and Cowboy Bob Orton. Was it Piper and Paul Orndorff? Either way, I think it was one of those two combinations. But Nate, I think that you could pull off a main event for Wrestle Kingdom because now they're doing 2 nights every year for Wrestle Kingdom. Those shows are super long, man. Like, last year's Wrestle Kingdom took me 10 hours combined to cover both nights. So, both shows were like 4 hours each, but just with transcriptions and pausing and getting all the moves right, it took me 5 hours for each of those events. So, I think you could pull off better doing a tag team match on one of the separate nights for Wrestle Kingdom than you would for WrestleMania. It really has to be something personal and be that hot of a tag team feud to warrant that position to be the main event of WrestleMania. You know, it would have to be something like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against Triple H versus Shane McMahon, and Triple H and Shane put their careers on the line. You know, like Kevin and Sami just go absolutely berserk, like how Kevin would be in Ring of Honor, and like holding the company hostage or something like that. And I think that you have to have the right feud and the right match to close out WrestleMania like that for it to be a tag match. Next question. Is The Fiend the next WWE champion? I don't think he doesn't need a title to be relevant. Well, Nate, me and you are on the same page, pal, because I don't think The Fiend needs any championship to be relevant. In 5 years, which title will be more highly regarded, the North American Championship or TNT? I'll say the North American Championship because after what I saw last week on Dynamite, I don't know if AEW is going to be around in 5 years. And I'm not joking. They're making a lot of mistakes right now. They really need to look at themselves in the mirror before they start driving people away, because it's one thing for you to shoot arrows at your other wrestling promotions around the world, but if you can't look yourself in the mirror and you can't actually build an identity and give people a reason to care about your product, it doesn't matter what Tony Khan does or the fact that his father has $1 gazillion. Even then, if you have a shit product, you're going to get kicked off the television. So I'd probably say the North American Championship. I got 3 more questions here from Nate. He says, do you think Impact will ever get to AEW's level in popularity? Well, I think AEW's popularity is skewed. What about is popular outside of the internet wrestling community? I don't see casual people talking about AEW. Yeah, you get AEW commercials on TNT. Outside of the wrestling bubble, what about AEW is popular to the highest extent? Like, I see every Thursday, I see Brian Alvarez dance around like a freaking 15-year-old girl when the ratings come out for the Wednesday Night Wars. And I don't know who's marking out for a product that averages 800,000 viewers every week. Like, really? 800,000? This is the second coming of something that's going to bring down the WWE, and we got to dance like we won the World Series when they average 800,000 viewers. I don't really know if AEW is really that popular. And more times than not, Impact puts on the better product than AEW does. So, we need to gauge what popularity is in pro wrestling in 2020. WWE's established where you like their product or some decisions they make. They're established. You know where they are. You know where you can find their content. People talk about it, whether they like it or not. Like, we need to have like a full length discussion down the road on what's the actual gauge of popularity in pro wrestling in 2020. I would hope so that Impact could gain popularity to AEW, because that'd be a good testament for Impact and all the rebuilding they've had to do since Dixie Carter left the company. So I would hope so, but probably not, because when you have the Meltzers and the Wade Kellers and the Alvin Bitches of the world, they're going to do everything they can to convince you that AEW is the second coming of the greatest wrestling show of all time, and we're in the wrestling we're on the tip of the wrestling apocalypse, and there's no turning back with AEW. So, how do you stay happy in everyday life? It's just how you go about it. I'm having a good gauge in the energy that I want in my life, and there's a lot of times that I sit in silence and think and try to observe things instead of just going around the day and just being reactionary. I'm not a reactionary person, you know. I'm really laid back, and if people want to talk to me, cool. If they don't, cool. Like, I'm just really focusing on my career. That makes me happy. Getting to play music, that makes me happy. I don't really have a lot of distractions or things that would bring me down as other things would, let's say, in the last couple years. But how I stay happy is just understanding that I'm in a good position. I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, what I do for a living as well. And I just feel like I'm clicking on all cylinders, and I feel like I'm ready to take the next step. But obviously, there's other things getting in the way of that, and that being the pandemic. And that can also be frustrating, too, where you don't know when you're going to have your next radio job interview or something like that. So I always try to keep a level head and just have to remind myself every day that I'm doing more right now that's going to help me further in the future. So that's how I stay happy every day. What do you think is Ricky Starks' ceiling in AEW? I think Ricky Starks overall has a high ceiling. It just depends on what AEW does with him. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to figure out what the ceiling for AEW is. Is it just the former WWE talents or the people in the elite circle, if you will, or the EVPs? Is that the measuring stick? Is that the only way you can get past? Is past Cody, past Kenny Omega, past the sunken place Bucks? Is it getting past Hangman Page? Like, we don't. AEW hasn't established the measuring sticks yet for their company. Yeah, we know who the EVPs are, but honestly, when you watch the show, does it really feel like Omega and the Young Bucks and all these other people are the measuring stick? Like, honestly. So I think Ricky Starks does have a high ceiling. It's just it's all about what AEW does with him. And obviously, I think Ricky Starks is above just being associated in a group with Taz, with all due respect. But I think Ricky Starks can do a lot of things in the future and benefit on that. So I want to thank Chris and Nate for sending questions. Each and every week, you guys are fucking awesome. You guys can send questions as well to me at the Hoots Podcast on Twitter or at the Hoots Podcast at gmail.com. So we're just wrapping up our first part of the podcast. When I come back, I'm going to review Hell in a Cell and talk about what happened this week in the world of WWE. All right. We're back here on the Hoots Podcast. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, make sure to like this podcast on YouTube as well. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode on whatever podcasting platform you choose to use. And tell a friend about the Hoots Podcast. We're having a lot of fun here every single Thursday on the Hoots Podcast. So let's get to what happened this past Sunday night at Hell in the Cell at the WWE Thunderdome. First off, let me just say Charlie Caruso's a beautiful woman, and I'll leave it at that, all right? Secondly, I had this prevailing thought, just watching the pay-per-view at my uncle's house, and WWE pay-per-view nights are very interesting for me because sometimes I do cover them live and sometimes I don't. And preferably, sometimes I just wish I watched the pay-per-view for what it is and then do the transcript later because it's a more enjoyable experience. And I did that on Sunday night. I didn't cover the pay-per-view live. I just watched it at my Uncle Jeremy's house, and we had a good time watching the event. And, doing the transcript later on and just getting more context. And that's really the beauty of having this website that I have and doing transcripts and covering the industry for a living in a different way and actually properly and respectively, is that I get to gain context of what's happening with these matches, the storylines, why things are happening, why things aren't happening, And when you really take a chance to sit down and actually watch and break down the moves, and you ask yourself a gazillion questions, but at the end of the day, the answer will always come to you instead of you trying to project what the answer is or where things are happening. We can all assume. We can assume about every aspect of life, but I think life gives you the answers. You could. I don't think more times than not, reality hits you more than what you assume. So, when I watched the pay-per-view on Sunday and I did the transcript later on, I just want to give a big round of applause for what the women, the men, and the referees pulled off on Sunday, especially for the 3 Hell in a Cell matches I'll talk about in particular. But before I get into the Hell in a Cell matches, I just want to talk really quick about some of the other stuff that happened on the show that wasn't related to Hell in a Cell action. The Miz becoming Mr. Money in the Bank. He defeated Otis after Tucker Knight turned his back on Otis. Tucky is no more. And I see a lot of people on social media just dogging the Miz and saying, oh, he's annoying, he's boring, he's annoying heel, he's too cocky, he's egotistical. Did we forget about what a heel is in 2020? Like, here's the thing I don't understand about wrestling in 2020 when it comes to fandom. I don't know why we feel like we have to like or be into every character, whether it's heel or babyface. Like, it's okay for you to not like somebody. Like, we have wrestling characters in the wrestling business for you to be upset. That's on the marquee. Just like any wrestling, just like any entertainment show you watch, you have people that you don't care for. And that's cool. You don't have to care about everybody. Like, all the time we always get to these arguments about, oh, what you would do if we had the pencil, or we're in the boardroom and we're acting like we have the right answers to business decisions and all this stuff, but we really don't. And when you look at a guy like The Miz and what he brings to the WWE, the guy is very underappreciated and undervalued for what he does for the wrestling business and for the WWE as a whole. And yeah, he is annoying. Yes, he is conceited. Yes, he is all about himself. Yes, he is all of those things. But he's a heel and he's doing his job. If you're annoyed by The Miz, if he pisses you off when he wins, or you don't like his style of wrestling or how he cuts promos, he's doing his job. You're not supposed to like The Miz. We're not supposed to like everybody in wrestling. That's the thing. If you don't like Retribution, cool, you don't like Retribution. But that doesn't mean, because you don't like their group, that doesn't mean that's a bad thing on the product. Like, what you like and what I like may be two different things. And that has to be more the case because a lot of you like AEW and I don't. So we all have different opinions, but I think too many times we get stuck in this rabbit hole where if I don't like a character right off the bat, or if I don't understand where they're going, that means the booking's off, the presentation is wrong, it's affecting the product of that particular brand, whatever the situation is happening. And I don't think that's always the case. Okay, because you don't like Retribution, that does not mean that Raw is not good. Just because one match didn't go the way you wanted on a pay-per-view, that does not mean the pay-per-view sucked. I just don't get that line of thinking. Like, look at The Miz. What is he not good at? He has one of the hottest women in the world as his wife. He's an awesome promo guy. And he's good in the ring for his character. Here's the thing. There's so many people that play wrestler, but there's also wrestlers who placate to their character. Miz wrestles the way The Miz wrestles, and that's why he's successful. So Miz becoming Mr. Money in the Bank was a good decision. And look, the run with Otis did not work out. And that happens sometimes. But I just really feel like The Miz is just overly underappreciated by this era of wrestling fans. And it's unfortunate because the guy is really good at his job. It's the same thing I've talked about in the past with King Corbin or the Jinder Mahals of the world. Like, just because they don't wrestle your style of flippity Canadian destroyers, DVDs, and step-up insecurities on ring aprons every match, that doesn't mean they're not talented at what they do. Or they're boring. The Miz would work in any era. He would work in the AWA. He would work in Mid-South. He would work in the NWA. He would work in Florida. He would work at in Oregon. He would work in San Francisco as well. The Miz is a good professional wrestler, and he's good for the professional wrestling industry. And the disrespect he gets because he doesn't do the Meltzer style of wrestling in 2020 is just a dumb take in my opinion. So let's get into the Hell in a Cell matches that did happen on this event, surnamed Hell in a Cell. And I gotta say, really quick, going back to the Miz Otis match, Corey Graves' commentary during that match was absolute gold. I just want to give a shout out to him. You know, when you look at this on paper and you have 3 Hell in a Cell matches on a pay-per-view, you know, sometimes you can feel like, oh shit, this could have a TNA Lockdown vibe. This is the same match. How can you make this separate from one another? And I think they pulled it off. And I think that's probably the main reason I really enjoyed this pay-per-view is the fact that they were able to make everybody in the match benefit, whether they lost, won a championship, retained, whatever the situation was. Every single performer that was in that Hell in a Cell pay-per-view on Sunday benefited from the match. Let's start off with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. I thought I was watching a movie. The storytelling in that match was just absolutely superb. I keep saying it, man. Roman Reigns is the tribal chief of pro wrestling. He's that damn good, guys. He's that good. And, you know, getting to be acknowledged by the Wild Samoans on the stage, I thought that was awesome. Roman and Jey Uso did a great job. I thought Jey had some really good moments. And then, you know, having the point where Roman puts Jimmy in a guillotine choke, which forces Jey to say, I quit. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that match with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. And if you guys haven't seen that match yet, you guys are truly missing out. It was one of the best Hell in a Cell matches I've ever seen. Speaking of best Hell in a Cell matches, I think on Sunday we saw the best female Hell in a Cell match I've ever seen in my life. And it's from 2 people you would never expect to hear me put them over. One thing I am able to do is to admit when I'm wrong about something. And for a large part of the summer, I was ragdolling the Bayley and Sasha stuff. I didn't care for them as a tag team. I thought Bayley was the champion for way too long. And there's been times over the years where I was indifferent and I didn't buy into the whole hysteria surrounding Sasha Banks. Now, let's not be misconstrued. Just because I don't think Sasha Banks is the greatest women's wrestler of all time, that does not mean that I don't see her value. What I can say is that I can admit when I'm wrong and say that Sasha is indeed elite and that she is one of the biggest box office draws in the industry. She may not be my favorite WWE female wrestler, but she's definitely one of the best in the entire industry, and I enjoy covering her work. She's talented. She has everything you want in a WWE superstar. The looks, come on. Blueberry Waterfall. No, why am I messing this up? It's Blueberry Muffin Waterfall. There you go. Come on, Josh. That's the thing. That's how hot Sasha Banks is. And you start to lose train of thought, right? Promos, good. Storytelling in the ring, good. I thought there was some parts for her where she got a little bit repetitive in her offense in the ring, but as I continued to cover her matches and her promos as the year gone by during this pandemic era, I've grown to appreciate Sasha Banks more for what she brings to the WWE and what she brings to the women's division. And guess what? on SmackDown, she is the blueprint. She is the standard. And now she's the SmackDown Women's Champion. And I got to give big props to her and Bayley for what they pulled off on Sunday. That was not easy. I think out of the 3 women's Hell in a Cell matches, this is the best one that I've seen so far. There's some cool spots with the whole running meteor off the table ramp on the side of the cell was really good. There's just some really good intensity and stuff in that match with Bayley and Sasha Banks. The finish was great too. You wrap the chair around Bayley's neck and you're doing the stomping of the fingers and making her tap out to the bank statement. And that match was awesome. And then let's get into the main event. Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. As I said last week, I really wanted this match to be the main event because if this was going to be Drew's last night as champion, he deserves to main event a pay-per-view. Drew McIntyre has had a phenomenal run as the WWE champion, given the circumstances of what we're living through right now in this pandemic. A guy that lost out on the biggest opportunity of buzz and cheers in the world due to the pandemic, found a way to have barn burner after barn burner after barn burner of pay-per-view title defenses. Name the list: Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton for the last 3 pay-per-views. Especially this match. Drew and Randy have great chemistry with each other, and I don't want this rivalry to be lost upon people once this whole pandemic era comes to an end, because these two have done a really good job on Monday Night Raw. And I think sometimes when you have a feud like Drew and Randy that goes on for 2 or 3 months, especially with the fact that Raw is on every single week and it's 3 hours, and it's a lot of content to process, some of that luster seems to get away from people because they're so accustomed to seeing Randy and Orton and they get tired quick. Look, I get it. We're in the ADD culture. We can't stomach long feuds anymore. Yet we're the same people that say we want long-term storytelling, which makes sense, right? Randy and Drew did a phenomenal job with their rivalry. I thought the match they had on Sunday was really good. And Randy Orton is now your WWE champion. But what I really appreciated about this Hell in a Cell match was the fact that selling still matters in wrestling in 2020. From both guys, both Randy and Drew McIntyre are selling. It was just a really good, strong match. Did Drew and Randy need a Hell in a Cell to close out their feud or their rivalry? No. They didn't have to, but they did. And they did a really good job, and I thought it was a proper send-off for that pay-per-view. And Drew had an amazing run as the WWE champion, and this was probably inevitable because Randy Orton has been the best performer in the entire wrestling business outside of Roman Reigns in this pandemic era of wrestling, and it's not even close. Randy Orton is at the highest peak of his career right now, and man, I just can't wait till crowds come back and hear the heat this dude is going to get once fans are back in the buildings. And I can't wait for that day. It's going to be really, really, really special. So, yeah. Overall, I really enjoyed Hell in a Cell as a pay-per-view. I thought it was really good. Let's talk about a couple things really quick from Raw and SmackDown. I do want to mention the fact that Survivor Series is just right around the corner, and the fact that Survivor Series is going to be the 30th anniversary of The Undertaker, which is going to be pretty cool. They got this whole 30 Days of the Dead Man thing going on in the WWE Network, which is cool. And you guys know how I feel about The Undertaker. Undertaker is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers of all time outside of CM Punk. It's him and it's Punk and Taker, 1A and 1B. So, yeah, hopefully we see the Dead Man at Survivor Series. That'd be awesome. I saw for Monday Night Raw, I thought it was a pretty solid show this week as well. Looking at the matches, we had 3 qualifying matches for the Survivor Series men's team. AJ Styles defeated Jeff Hardy. That was a solid match. Keith Lee defeated Elias in a pretty good match too. I wanted to mention this because I mentioned this on Twitter too. I saw somebody say that oh, Keith Lee having a competitive match with Elias is affecting his booking. This is not good booking or presentation for Keith Lee. Okay, so let's have Keith Lee beat Elias in 3 minutes. And then what you say? Oh, so much for that Elias push. Man, he got squashed. Who did he piss off in the backstage area? You know, you get all those reports on the news sites. And I just don't get some of you guys' line of thinking these days, especially the reporters. But, well, maybe I'll figure that out one day down the road. But, yeah, Keith Lee and Elias had a pretty good match too. And then my favorite match from Raw this week was Matt Riddle against Sheamus. I just came off the heels of covering the G1. You want to talk about a match that would fit the G1 description and that tour and that style of wrestling? That's what you saw on Monday night at the Thunderdome. Matt Riddle and Sheamus tore the house down, and that was just absolutely awesome. So that was a great match. If you guys haven't seen it, you guys are truly missing out. And then I want to wrap this segment up by talking about what I saw last night on NXT, in NXT Halloween Havoc. I think this may be the best NXT episode I've seen this year. Just the presentation, all the production that went into it, getting to see the return of Bad News Barrett was great. You guys know how much of a mark I have for Wade Barrett and Bad News Barrett more specifically. Vic Joseph dressing up as Waldo is very apropos, but Vic Joseph's a great play-by-play guy. It was an awesome show, man. I loved it. You know, we had Johnny Gargano become the NXT North American champion. Thanks to help from Scream. I guess Johnny and Candice bought somebody made a wrestler dress up as Scream and cost Damian Priest the NXT North American Championship. I kind of bummed out about that, but Damian Priest will get back on his feet, and I don't think that match affected him. You know, looking at the other matches on the show, I mean, Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez had one of the best NXT Women's matches I've seen this year so far. Just really good, strong style heavyweight bout between both ladies, and it was an awesome match. If you guys haven't seen that from last night, Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez, you guys should go check that out. And then just like the cool cameos and stuff, we had Michael Hayes bringing Cameron Grimes to the Haunted House of Terror. I thought that whole cinematic thing with him and Dexter Lumis was pretty entertaining as well. And look, guys, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the biggest fan of horror movies or thriller. That whole genre is something that I'm not really interested into. Not that I'm scared of it. I've just always been indifferent to like Halloween or horror flicks or stuff like that. It's just there. It's something that I crave or mark out for. But you know what? It was cool. It was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to break down last night on the WWE Network and on the USA Network. And you know, Tommaso Ciampa had a really good promo. You guys should go check that out as well. I'd be remiss without mentioning seeing Legado del Fantasma donning their Hispanic roots, which was cool. Escobar paying homage to Rey Mysterio's gear from Halloween Havoc 1997 was awesome. Seeing Pete Dunne return and join forces with Pat McAfee is something that caught me by surprise. It was a really cool moment. The pop that Pete Dunne got in that Capitol Wrestling Center was fucking dope. Maybe this is just me wanting to just live and move to Florida right now. Just move on from Chicago. This me want to be Florida because that's my favorite place, my happy place. But like, I want to be at the Capitol Wrestling Center, man. That freaking joint is dope, man. I don't care if I have to wear a mask or whatever, or take tests. I just want to be at the Capitol Wrestling Center, you know? I want to check that venue out. And then let's talk about the main event, the TLS match, the Table Ladders and Scares match. Just a barn burner from Io and Candice. I always say Candice underrated Waterfall, but Candice is also very underrated in the conversation of best female wrestlers in the world. Io Shirai did retain, however, and is still your NXT Women's Champion. And I also want to mention that Shotzi Blackheart really, really made herself out to be a star last night. She, as Triple H put it out on Twitter, she had a breakout performance as the host of Halloween Havoc. I hope this is an annual thing for NXT. I loved it. I loved the presentation, the music, the vibe, the commentary. This was the best NXT episode of the year so far, and I fucking loved it. If you guys haven't seen Halloween Havoc, go out your way to watch it. It was really, really, really good. So I'm going to take one more swig of water, and when we come back, I'm going to review what I saw this past Saturday night from Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. Back here on the Hoots Podcast, let's keep the rig on the road here as we break down really quickly what happened, my takeaways from Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. We spray to all rings here on the Hoots Podcast. It's not just a WWE or AEW show. We talk about everything that happens in the world of professional wrestling. Impact Wrestling had their biggest show of the year this past Saturday night in Nashville, Tennessee. It was TNA Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. They had a cameo appearance by The Rock, who congratulated Ken Shamrock, who being the latest inductee in the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. Before I get into the pay-per-view as a whole, because I actually enjoyed this event, I have to say this, and you guys know me, I hold nothing back when it comes to my thoughts. Josh Matthews is the worst play-by-play wrestling commentator of all time. I don't care what you say. Excalibur is better than him. Mike Adamle is better than him. Scott Stanford is better than him. Hell, man, Jack Corpella is better than Josh Matthews, okay? Josh Matthews is so smug, so arrogant, so disingenuous as a play-by-play guy. When I hear him pretend to be excited, it doesn't necessitate me to be excited. I have to pull that out of myself. I don't have Josh Matthews sucking me into the action of what we're seeing. Josh Matthews completely sucks, okay? His attitude during that pay-per-view was embarrassing. I felt bad for Don Callis. I don't know why Don's not doing weekly commentary, by the way, because he's one of the best in the world. But that's his decision, I guess. Josh, man, they're doing these brawls around the ringside area, and I get it. People are very highly cautious and everything with the whole COVID-19 thing, but this dude was so over the top. Like, he's hiding he's going behind the barricade and acting like a I don't even know how to say it. That, like, Josh Matthews during that pay-per-view was so annoying, such a turnoff, that it almost ruined the pay-per-view for me, how bad his performance was. Like, I put it out on Twitter the other night. Like, I don't know how Josh Matthews still has a job with Impact Wrestling after how he conducted himself on air during that pay-per-view. Just bad production issues, by the way, from Impact, where you hear Josh Matthews like, hey, can we fix our technical difficulties? And, the backstage shot with Heath and Rhino. There's still a lot of sloppiness in TNA, and that's some of the things that always hinder them, that they're not fine-tuned. They don't have the best of the best when it comes to what they need to take their product to the next level. And as far as the pay-per-view is concerned, I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of good matches on this card. I really enjoyed the X Division Scramble match that kicked off the show. Had Rohit Raju retain his X Division Championship. I thought that was a really good match. Looking at the rest of the card, there was a couple of title changes on this event. We had Su Yung defeating Deonna Purrazzo for the Impact Knockouts Championship. I will say this. Some of the matches on Impact for the Bound for Glory pay-per-view overstayed its welcome. as much as I love Deonna Purrazzo, and I think she has the potential to be one of the best female wrestlers in the world and just ever, but her match with Su Yung was overly long. And this is the thing I mentioned with AEW. I know that sometimes when you have people released from WWE in their boo-boo phase and they get in their feelings in these interviews with the dirt sheets, I know you want to maximize on that and capitalize that and try to put them on the pedestal that they don't belong, but it's just not a good look for your product. And that's not a slight towards Deonna, because she is talented. I think she's a great wrestler, but sometimes I feel like when you have people released from WWE and they get these automatic title opportunities and you have these pay-per-view matches, they just give them long time just because, okay, this is the new flavor of the month. They just got released from WWE. Let's give them a 20-minute match, pal, on pay-per-view. And they don't deserve it sometimes. So it's just hard to take that seriously, but it was a good match. And Su Yung is your new Impact Knockouts champion. Really enjoyed the stuff with Moose and EC3. Their cinematic match was really good. Strong style stuff from Eddie Edwards and Ken Shamrock, even though I disagree with the decision of having Ken Shamrock make Eddie Edwards tap out. It was just a very odd month or two for Eddie Edwards. He becomes the champion at Slammiversary. And then 2 months later, he's tapping out to Ken Shamrock on pay-per-view. I just thought it was a bad look. So that was my thoughts on that. And then let's talk about the other two matches that really stood out to me. The North against Madman Fulton, Ace Austin against the Good Brothers and the Motor City Machine Guns. Unfortunately, Alex Shelley got injured after a double underhook pile driver on the stage. Best and speedy recovery to Alex Shelley. I thought Chris Sabin had a good performance, even though there was times that I thought he was ripping off Daniel Bryan, but that's just another conversation for another time. That tag match was really good, and the North regained their Impact World Tag Team titles. They picked up the victory. I really thought it was going to be the coronation of the Good Brothers, but maybe they're holding that off for Hard to Kill, which will take place on January 16th. But another, like, a really strong Fatal 4-Way match for that tag team titles. And then the main event. The best match of the show, obviously, Rich Swann against Eric Young. Eric Young versus Rich Swann for the Impact World title. Congratulations to Rich Swann for becoming the Impact World Championship. I mentioned it last week that I had my doubts and my indifference towards the pay-per-view. No, indifference towards their feud. But the match was fantastic. The storytelling was good as well. I thought it was a really, really good match. And Rich Swann is your new Impact World Champion. So, overall, I enjoyed Bound for Glory for the most part. I thought it was worth the money that I spent to cover the pay-per-view. And, I really enjoyed it. If you guys haven't seen Bound for Glory, make sure you go check it out. And then really quick, as we do this loop around the outside of the WWE and AEW bubble, I do want to mention one thing for WWE. Make sure to check out Walter versus Ilya Dragunov for NXT UK this week. They're having their NXT UK Championship match on NXT today as I record this on a Thursday. That is going to be one of the matches of the year. I can't wait to jot that down later on ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. And that's going to be fucking awesome. I can't wait. And then, if you guys haven't seen NXT UK, man, you guys are truly missing out. If you want pure professional wrestling, NXT UK has that and then some on the WWE Network. And then finally, I wanted to mention some stuff coming up with New Japan as far as what I'm doing. For the first time, I'm actually going to be taking time to cover the World Tag League and the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. So this is like the final tour for New Japan in 2020 before we get to Wrestle Kingdom season. And there's going to be 17 events spanning from November through December. And I'll be covering all of those on ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. So I wanted to say that yours truly will be covering both the World Tag League and the Best of the Super Juniors tournament coming up on later on this month. So make sure to check out ProWrestlingTranscripts.com, pal. All right, folks. It's that time of the week. The time everybody's been waiting for. The moment that you mark down on your phone or your calendars, if you guys still use calendars in 2020, the moment you've been waiting for. The most highly requested segment in all professional wrestling in 2020. It is, once again, time to ask this question. What the hell is wrong with AEW? And we're going to start off with Brother Carter in a 3, 2, 1.
It's time for What the Hell is Wrong with AEW?
What the hell is wrong with AEW? Why the hell are the Young Bucks trying to be babyfaces now? It's absolutely ridiculous. Their feud with FTR is stupid, which is unfortunate because I still believe that their tag team division has the potential to be the best in the world. Like, if you look at just the Young Bucks versus FTR on paper, it should be a tremendous match. And I think it actually is going to be a great match. But everything that's leading up to it, the build and all that stuff, is absolutely ridiculous. The Young Bucks don't know how to be characters outside of the ring. FTR barely knows how to be characters outside of the ring. So it's just their feud. I'm not interested in their feud. I am interested in the match just because I know how good they are. But seriously, this whole turn with the Young Bucks just makes no sense to me. And now there's this stipulation that if they don't win the tag titles, they'll never change for the challenge for the tag titles again, which guarantees that the Young Bucks are going to defeat FTR at Full Gear. Because if the Young Bucks can't challenge for the tag titles, then what else are they going to do? Are they going to create the TNT Tag Team Championships? Like, no, they're not going to do that. So we now know who's winning that match. Of course, they could just say no and then book themselves whatever since they're the bosses, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, oh my God, the town hall meeting segment was so freaking stupid. You've got people outside of this angle who are asking questions like Luchasaurus acting like a 65 million year old dinosaur. Britt Baker, which again, I love Britt Baker and I love Eric Bischoff and it was cool to see them. But why would anybody outside of this angle care about this angle? It's absolutely ridiculous. And then they're trying to parody the presidential debates. It's so stupid. We're finally getting the Jericho versus MJF match, which is fine. Actually, I thought Jericho and MJF were the two worst people in the segment. I thought Sammy Guevara confronting MJF at the beginning of the show was great. I thought that, I believe it was Santana confronting MJF during the town hall meeting. I thought that was very good. But, so the two people that are the focus of the angle are the two worst people in this segment. And this segment has led me to one conclusion. MJF needs to leave AEW, and he needs to leave AEW ASAP. I've said that they could build the company around MJF, which they could, but he's being wasted. His talent is being wasted. He could be a much bigger star in Ring of Honor or New Japan. I fear that he would get lost in the shuffle in WWE right now. He could go to NXT, and that would be fine. I think he actually could do well in NXT and build, because that type of character would work down there. But he needs to leave AEW, because as long as the Elite is in charge, MJF will never get to the top, because he was never an ex-WWE guy or a member of the Elite, which has somehow, tricked Tony Khan into thinking that, that they know what they're doing. It's absolutely ridiculous. Cody and Orange Cassidy are good athletes, but everything with the Lumberjacks was stupid. The spots with the Lumberjacks was stupid. The interactions outside of the ring, just how they went in and out, the flow between out into the Lumberjacks and all that stuff was absolutely stupid. And then the hugging spot in the middle of the match, in the middle of a Lumberjack match with best friends, was dumb as well. It was horrible. Just let Cody and Orange Cassidy wrestle. And let them have a match where there's no time limit, and then we can finally decide who the winner is. And also, I guess Cody's a heel again because of the yellow, even though he's going to try to act all babyfacious. I mean, Arn Anderson punched Orange Cassidy on the, to end the match, essentially. So I guess he's a heel again, which he always should have been a heel, but he's probably going to act like a babyface. So it's the whole lumberjack match was stupid. It was absolutely ridiculous. Speaking of the best friends, you got Miro and Times New Roman font Kip Sabian against the best friends, and then that feud's stupid. It's over a video game. I don't care about that. Okay, so I've complained for a long time about the women's division in AEW. And now, Serena Deeb, who won the NWA Women's Championship, which, by the way, congratulations to Serena Deeb. That's wonderful. I think that she's absolutely deserving of that for sure. But they've put more focus on that than on their own champion. Hikaru Shida has been in one segment in the last 2 weeks of the show, and it was a backstage segment. And she's challenging Nyla Rose, who we haven't seen on television in like 2 months. And she's going to get an AEW Women's Championship match. It is very obvious that AEW does not care about their women's division. They don't know how to book their women's division. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that Britt Baker is not the champion it makes no sense to me, because she's the only, right now in my opinion, she's, besides Serena Deeb, is the only credible talent in the AEW women's division, which is unfortunate because I like Nyla Rose and I like Hikaru Shida. I think that they're, I think that they have potential, but there's no credibility to what they're doing with them. The booking of the women's division is just atrocious. AEW, anyone except women. Why should I care about Shawn Spears? Are they banking on his 14-2, now 15-2 record as a thing? What does a squash match do? Why should I care about Shawn Spears? He's won all of his matches on AEW Dark. So now all of a sudden he's going to get a squash match, and now we're supposed to care about his feud with Scorpio Sky? It's stupid. And then the last thing I'll say this week, I hate Kenny Omega's entrance. All of the accolades are awful. It doesn't make no sense. Now, if they continue to do this, and it's clear that the accolades are just kind of part of they're kind of trolling the fans or whatever, okay, I'll buy into that. But the entrance, I can't stand it. Just let him wrestle. Seriously, what the hell is wrong with AEW?
This has been What the Hell is Wrong with AEW.
Thank you very much, Brett Carter, for the submission. Great job as always, my man. What the hell is wrong with AEW this week? Well, I'll get to that in just a couple of minutes, but first I want to be fair and positive, everybody. Let's talk about what I did enjoy for AEW Dynamite this week. I liked a couple of the matches on the show. I really enjoyed the Hangman Page match with Wardlow. Hangman Page continues to be the glue for AEW as far as the good side of their wrestling matches. He can have a good match with anybody. He can have a good match with a broomstick. Having a guy like Wardlow, who doesn't have as much television experience, but a guy that is experienced in the industry, their match was awesome. I thought that was a fun opener. Really enjoyed the match with Serena Deeb and Layla Hirsch, my new wrestling crush, by the way. God, that girl's hot. Even for her being an amateur wrestler, that girl's hot. That was a good match. And then Kenny Omega and Pentagon Jr. had a fantastic match. Was it up to par to the one they had it all in? Probably not, but to have that match on television, I thought that was really good as well. So, and then that's pretty much it for stuff I liked. I want to start off with this. Let's start off with the World Championship here, because we're a couple of weeks. We're actually 9 days away from Full Gear pay-per-view, right? And the main event's going to be Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match for the AEW World title. I'm going to start off with this. And I'm going to try to promise myself that I'm not going to pop a blood vessel or scream too loud during this segment, but I have some pointed things that I want to say and be more measured during this What the Hell is Wrong with AEW segment this week for a reason. You look at Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston on paper, right? It'd be something you'd be really, really excited for. And then you watch AEW and you realize, is this a televised professional wrestling company or a CZW reunion show? And I had that ticking in the back of my head as we get closer and closer and closer to this pay-per-view, because God knows when it comes to Jon Moxley, the heavyweight champion, the only way you can have interesting matches with him is if there's added stipulations or gimmicks or BS attached to them. And that's your world champion. That's the guy that PWI said that's the best wrestler in the world. That's Jon Moxley. And no matter how many promos he can cut or how good Eddie Kingston's on the mic, there's a looming reality that seems to go over every single wrestling fan's heads these days. Look at what Jon Moxley does as a world champion and the people he's brought down since being the AEW champion. Brody Lee, an afterthought. Brian Cage, an afterthought. Lance Archer, an afterthought. MJF, this kills me to say this because MJF was my number one pick in the TWT draft. MJF is relegated to Le Dina Demania with Chris Jericho. We want to talk about WWE champions and how they bury certain performers after their matches. Let's do the comparison box here. Like, tell me who has benefited after having a program with Jon Moxley. It sure hell ain't Jake Hager. That's for sure. God, that guy sucks. But Jon Moxley in AEW, Tony Khan has such this infatuation with Dave Meltzer and the way Dave Meltzer views things and the way Dave Meltzer's philosophy of pro wrestling. Hell, even Chris Jericho's infatuated. Why do you think Chris has Meltzer on every other week on Talk is Jericho? Like, I'm not stupid to how the business works. Dave Meltzer, what he says gets clicks. Dave Meltzer on Talk is Jericho gets clicks. Tony Khan taking booking ideas from Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervidi and Dave Meltzer is going to give them clicks. So Tony Khan, this long-term subscriber to Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer crap letter. No, it's the Wrestling Observer shit letter. Let's dub that this week. The official Wrestling Observer shit letter. And we all know the drill with Dave. His favorite wrestling promotion is New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, Tony Khan, being the Wrestling Observer shit letter mark that he is going to try to convince you, the audience, that Jon Moxley is the U.S. version of Minoru Suzuki. Why do I say that? Because look at who is his biggest fan. Dave Meltzer. The guy who's obsessed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I love covering New Japan. It's one of my favorite covers, my favorite promotions to cover as well. But I'm not up to it and anal about it as Meltzer is. And Tony Khan is going out of his way to make sure that Jon Moxley is presented like Minoru Suzuki. The only difference is we're hearing what a babyface edition of Suzuki would be on television. And here's the hard, crushing reality for people in Jacksonville to listen to this. Jon Moxley can't lace Minoru Suzuki's shoelaces. Okay? Let's talk about the town hall meeting. I'd echo Brad Carter's sentiments. Week after week, it's a disturbing trend that the Le Champion, the ratings god, the million viewer man, continues to have the most shittiest segments in all professional wrestling. Let's talk about Mimosa Mayhem. That sucked. Ladina Debonair sucked. Outside a couple jokes with the debate with Orange Cassidy, that sucked. The town hall meeting sucked. The least surprising reveal of Eric Bischoff participating in the segment, that didn't shock me. I didn't even have to look up at spoilers to know that Eric Bischoff would be part of that segment. Are you kidding me? Guys, you can figure out what AEW's doing before they announce it. That's a problem. Like, I don't know how you double down from a bad anniversary show to Le Dinner Debonair, but they did that. I don't know how you triple down from Le Dinner Debonair to the town hall meeting that absolutely sucked. It took way, way too long to get through. Like, I don't understand Chris Jericho's philosophy at AEW. I don't know what he's trying to accomplish. Like he is so upset with Vince McMahon that he's basically going to do WWE Raw segments for his entire run in AEW until the point people say, hey, Axl Rose, get the fuck off my television. That's what we're getting with Chris Jericho at this point. And it's embarrassing to watch. Like, Chris Jericho, you're not good, dude. You need to get off television. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself as much as your hero, Donald Trump, too. Okay? Like, get off my freaking television screen. I would rather watch David Kaplan from Chicago cut promos than you. I would rather see you team up with what's his name? I'd rather see you be part of the Jurassic Express than you with the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle sucks, okay? Sammy Guevara is useless, and Santana and Ortiz are watered down. They don't feel the same anymore. So we're doing this whole bit about how we're going to get MJF into the Inner Circle, and we're going to have this match at Full Gear. Whoopity freaking do! Like, okay, so what? Jericho's last couple matches, especially on pay-per-view, have not been good to the eyes, okay? And I'm still waiting for this Casino Battle Royal, because we always have a dumb Battle Royal on AEW pay-per-views. I'm sure they'll announce that next week. Look, as much as I want to support MJF and Chris Jericho and all that, their feud absolutely sucks ass. It's bad. It's like people trying to convince you that Stan Bowman is a good general manager for the Blackhawks. It's like people trying to convince you that, what's his name? I'm trying to remember the bicycle guy. Oh, that Lance Armstrong is a good person. Like, it's a lose-lose situation. You already know the answer to this. MJF and Chris Jericho on paper would be awesome in the WWE. When you see MJF and Chris Jericho in AEW, I can't wait to grab my remote quicker and change the channel. That's how bad this feud has been. And I can't wait for this to get done and over with. Chris Jericho needs an extensive break from television. Extensive break from television. This is not good. This is not good at all. Speaking of things that are not good at all, let's talk about the Young Bucks and FTR interview. What was that? You could have aired that on YouTube? What a waste of TV time. And who the hell wants to watch an interview conducted by excrement? You could have Brother Carter do that interview. It's just brutal, man. I always say this, keep all microphones away from Matt Jackson, because that's just a time bomb waiting to happen in his face. Like, he's not good on the mic whatsoever. He's not. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with this. The egomaniac of all AEW, Cody Rhodes against Orange Cassidy. This is the one that really grinded my gears this weekend. This week for Dynamite. So we're having this lumberjack match for the TNT title. Some of the in-ring spots and the sequences were fine. But here's the thing. As a guy who's a traditional wrestling fan, like I'm a wrestling purist, right? Why is Arn Anderson as a babyface punching Orange Cassidy behind the referee's back? Like, every time you tune into Dynamite, you don't even know whether Cody's going to be a good guy or a bad guy. Like, it's just like getting worse as the weeks go by. Like, I'm waiting for him to switch to the black hair again before the pay-per-view where he fights Darby Allin. I'm pretty sure that'll happen. Like, Cody Rhodes, dude, you just be the freaking heel that you are, man. This is the frustrating part because, like, I'm watching this match, like, who am I supposed to cheer for? We got Orange Cassidy, who's a indifferent guy. He's from wherever, he weighs whatever. We all know the whole drill. And you're having this stuff with the Dark Order coming in and running in, and it's like, come on, man. Like, this is the best you guys could offer me? Cody Rhodes versus Orange Cassidy? And I just don't understand how these matches are being justified to be booked. Like, okay, Cody versus Darby Allin. Like, if this is the sports-based wrestling company, they don't even adhere to the wins and loss records that they have in their promotion. It's to what they think would fit best for their storyline. And going back to Chris Jericho, if everything he's doing right now, that's his creative freedom, I would want wrestlers with no creative freedom. How about that? Because if that's creative freedom, get that off my damn TV screen. AEW doesn't even pay attention to their own win-loss records. They don't even pay attention to their power rankings. And please, as I wrap this up, for the love of God, stop doing this stupid-ass intro with Kenny Omega. It's not good. Yes, I don't mind seeing good waterfall dancing on the stage. That's fine. But nobody cares about Sports Illustrated. Nobody cares about The Torch. Nobody cares about the Wrestling Observer shit letter. And nobody cares about Kenny Omega, okay? Stop doing this bullshit. That, my friends, has been What the Hell is Wrong with AEW. Alright, folks, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your schedules to listen to the podcast this week. You can follow me on Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. I'm also on Instagram at Joshie Lopez 94. That's Joshie Lopez 94, and at Josh Lopez Music. You can follow Brother Carter, by the way, on Twitter, on Instagram at Dericho06. On Twitter at Dericho06, and then Brother Carter's the man. You'll hear from him in a couple minutes, but make sure to bookmark ProWrestlingTransfers.com so you can follow along with all my coverage of every single wrestling show out there. Make sure to support Tuesday Wrestling Tuesday with my man Jonathan Hood. And if you guys could, please subscribe to the podcast. It comes to you free of charge every single Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast from. And leave us a review. Let us know what you think about the podcast, good, bad, or indifferent. I want to gauge your guys' interests and thoughts on this podcast. So all you have to do is have a Apple Podcast account. Leave us a 4 or 5 star rating. And just let us know what you think about the podcast. And I appreciate the support. Thank you, Chris and Nate, for sending questions each and every single week. Shout out to all the other good brothers and good sisters who check out the podcast each and every single week. And as far as the moment for Zen is just this, man. Be the authentic product that is yourself, and always remember, you dictate the pace of your life, nobody else. So, I'm Joshie. This has been episode 229 of the Hoots Podcast. And right now, we're going to send it off to Brother Carter for a brand spanking new edition of the Thoughts of Dericho. I'll be back here next week to preview AEW Full Gear and New Japan Power Struggle 2020. Be making predictions for that event. And right now, we're going to send it out to Brett Carter for this week's edition of the Thoughts of Dericho. We'll talk to you guys next week. Yes, sir.
And now, the Thoughts of Dericho. Listen well, man.
Welcome, welcome, one and all, to the segment that will not have you emotionally drained, but will have you emotionally charged, fired up, and ready to take on the world. It is the Thoughts of Dericho, featuring the one, the only, Brother Carter. Holy crap. Roman Reigns is by far the best professional wrestling talent in the world right now. His match at Hell in the Cell with Jey Uso was absolutely outstanding in every way, shape, and form. The storytelling with him, Jay, Jimmy, the officials, all of it was absolutely tremendous, and I loved every bit of it. The only critique that I have it is that after Jay choked out Roman Reigns, he should have just kept going until the referee stopped the match. I think the referee could have probably stopped the match a couple times along the way. I know why they did it, because they had to say I quit. I get it. And to me, that was just a little awkward, a little weird. But other than that, it was phenomenal. Jimmy running down, the whole crying segment with Roman Reigns was phenomenal. Like, the acting was terrific. I'm hoping actually that we'll see, I know Naomi is drafted to Raw. I hope that when she comes back, we see a little bit of her on SmackDown getting involved with this storyline. I think that there's just add another whole level to this. But I think it was absolutely terrific. And then seeing Afa and Sika, the Wild Samoans at the very end, come out and then put the lay on Roman Reigns and anoint him the tribal chief was terrific. I give this match out of 10, I give it 175. It was just, I was emotionally drained at the end of it. And I had troubles. I felt bad for Jeff Hardy and Elias, who had to go next, because, I was like, geez, how do you follow that? But my God, it was just tremendous. Congratulations to Roman Reigns, to Jey Uso, who, geez, why have we not seen more of this throughout his career? Why, not saying that he couldn't do it, but why has he not been given more of an opportunity? Jey Uso could be a world champion, and I would 100% believe it. Like, holy cow. If you were to put the world title, whether it's the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship, on Jey Uso tomorrow, I would not have a problem with that at all. That would be just, he's earned it, because what he's done with Roman Reigns has just been terrific. So congratulations to everybody. I can't say enough good things about this. Miz is Mr. Money in the Bank. To quote Daniel Bryan, yes, yes, yes. And you can't see it because this is audio, but I'm doing the whole hand in the air thing because that's awesome. It's long overdue. I'm sad for Otis because Otis, I think, is a lot of talent. Unfortunately, there was just no real way to plug him in to winning a singles world championship. And now we get a program with him and Tucker, which I think is fine. I'd like to actually see that. But it's long overdue for Miz to be Mr. Money in the Bank. He needs to be world champion. He deserves to be world champion. I've been saying that for years, that Miz is one of the top talents in WWE. I'm so happy for him, and I really want him to be world champion because I think that he deserves it, and it will be great for the company. I don't know how that's going to play out, when he'll cash in. I don't know if the cash-in restarts or if he has 1 year up till the next year Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So I don't know how that works. But I'm just so happy for him to be world champion. I could see him cashing in maybe after Survivor Series. Give him an opportunity to shine on a big stage. But either way, I'm thrilled for The Miz. He deserves it. And congratulations. Okay, I want to care about Retribution. I really do. Like, I really, really do. But I'm having a hard time getting into this storyline. Again, and it's unfortunate because I like the only person that has a shot of saving this is Mustafa Ali, because he has been terrific in this, and I think he has the opportunity to bring this thing together. But I mean, just for me with Retribution, just let them be who they are. We know that Reckoning is Maya Yim. We know that I believe it's Slapjack is Shane Thorne. We know that T-Bar is Dominic Dijakovic. And they're great as they are. You know, so just let them, if you have some enhancement talent to kind of build the numbers, that's fine. But the core group, just let them be who they are. Take the masks off and go, oh my God, it's Dominic Dijakovic, or oh my God, it's Mia Yim. Because on Raw, and we'll get to this in a minute, with Raw, like when Reckoning was having her I guess her itchiness or her kind of seizure type thing, the referee went, Mia, are you okay? So she gave away that, or the referee gave away that it's Mia Yim. So just let them do that. So again, I want to get into retribution, but I'm just having a hard time doing it. Sasha and Bayley are amazing together. They will be linked forever, and I have no complaints about that. It was a terrific Hell in a Cell match. Pretty much the whole card, top to bottom, from Hell in the Cell was excellent. I thought it's one of the best pay-per-views of the year, to be honest. Sasha Bayley are amazing together. Again, a terrific match. Sasha's the SmackDown Women's Champion. This feud is not over, obviously, though I want to see Bianca Belair get in there at some point, because I think that's one of the reasons she was drafted to SmackDown, because she is the EST of WWE and needs to be involved in championship matches because she's that good. But I don't know how long they can draw or drag out the Sasha Bayley feud, if they're going to put them aside for a little while. We'll find out on SmackDown this week. But I have a feeling they're going to have them go at it at Mania, which is fine. But they had an amazing, amazing match, and congratulations to Sasha and Bayley for another terrific contest. Also, shout out to my friend Matt McCool. His girl Sasha Banks completed the crown, the triple crown or whatever, and finally got that SmackDown Women's Championship. So that's great. Randy Orton is the WWE champion. I didn't see it coming, but that's good for him. It's a safe way to do it. Makes Orton a 14-time world champion, tying Triple H's record. I think I had no problems with it at all. I know some people are complaining, oh my God, why isn't WWE building new stars? Because their storytelling with who they have is working. And I love it. I've heard rumors that we're going to get Randy Orton versus Edge for the WWE Championship at Mania 37. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that's going to be great. So again, I didn't see it coming, but good for him. The other thing I will say is Drew McIntyre needs to be the MVP for 2020. I think that the way he's had to carry the company since the coronavirus pandemic, not getting his opportunity to win the WWE Championship in front of 80,000 people, which he has earned, that's unfortunate. But Drew McIntyre should be Superstar of the Year, and he's the MVP in my opinion of 2020 in the world of professional wrestling. Overall, top to bottom, I thought Hell in a Cell was fantastic, and I just loved every minute. So congratulations to everyone involved. It was great. Okay, let's switch gears. I want to talk about Raw a little bit, then I'll get into some of the things I liked about AEW. You've already heard what I didn't like about AEW, but I'll get into what I liked about AEW. As I was watching Raw this week, it just kind of dawned on me, Raw's roster is stacked. My goodness, there is great talent from top to bottom. In the men's side, in the women's side, Raw's roster is stacked. I mean, that's the talent that is on that show is unbelievable. From McIntyre, Orton, The Fiend, Alexa Bliss, The Hurt Business, Elias, Jeff Hardy.
So nice. Just ask me what you'd like me to do, and I'll try my best to help.
I gotta be quiet. I just said Alexa Bliss, and my smart speaker went off. Okay. I'm gonna leave this in the audio because that's kind of funny. But, I mean, think about it. All those folks I mentioned, Elias, Jeff Hardy, The Hurt Business, Angel Garza, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax. I mean, I know I'm missing out some people, but the talent on Raw is stacked. It's very cool. I can't figure out why WWE is continuing to push Lana. I just don't get it. Maybe they're trying to give her one last ditch effort to try to get her over before maybe she's threatening to go be the best woman over in AEW, but you guys heard my thoughts earlier about what I think about what AEW thinks about their women's division, so I think that'd be a bad move for Lana. But again, I don't know why they're pushing her. I don't get it. It's fine, I guess, but I just don't understand why WWE is continuing to push her. Angel Garza flirting with 4 women at the same time was hilarious. Like, he came up and started flirting with Mandy Rose, and then he's like, okay, well, Dana, what about you? And, she's just standing right there. And then Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler comes over, and he starts flirting with them. That was awesome. Like, when he gave the rose to Nia Jax, I was dying laughing. I thought that was hilarious. That was great. They've announced the Survivor Series championship matches, which we knew were going to happen, but holy cow, they're going to be fantastic. You've got the Reigns versus Orton, Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn, Street Profits versus the New Day, Asuka versus Sasha Banks. I mean, those are all going to be great. So I think Survivor Series is shaping up to be fantastic. Last thing I'll say about Raw is Matt Riddle and Sheamus brought the house down and had an amazing match. That was great. I'm sorry, one other thing I'll say about Alexa Bliss. Holy cow, when she is evil and doing the whole Fiend thing and her segment with a moment of bliss, yowie wowie, I'm in on Alexa Bliss. That was fan-freaking-tastic. She is up her game to a whole nother. She doesn't need a championship because she has easily surpassed the Raw Women's Championship, though. Tell me you wouldn't want to see her and this character versus Asuka at some point. I could see that happening. Hell, I could see that happening at Mania. That would be that could be a match that steals a show, assuming the Queen is not back by then. But that was awesome. Great show from Raw. I really enjoyed it this week. Okay, talk a little bit about what I enjoyed about AEW this week. And let me find my notes on there it is. Okay, guys, I said earlier that MJF needs to leave AEW, and I really think he does. But man, MJF needs to leave AEW. But man, is he such a good chicken heel. Like, his stuff is, he's got talent. There's no question about it. Just his stuff with Sammy Guevara at the very beginning and with Wardlow and all that stuff I thought was great. Again, his character is so good. He's just being misused. I thought, by and large, the wrestling on AEW Dynamite this week was quite good. A great match between Wardlow and Hangman Adam Page. Both men are very talented. And as much as I dislike the Elite, Adam Page is a star, and you can build a company around him. And Wardlow is getting better and better each week. And we got to see the buckshot lariat twice, which was, I love that move. And I love Hangman Adam Page. So, great match in there. I enjoyed the match between Eddie Kingston and Matt Sydal. Great psychology using Moxley's move at the very end. I actually enjoyed it. From what I recall, Josh wasn't a fan of it. But I thought it was a good match overall. And to me, Eddie Kingston is outstanding. He's now my favorite performer in AEW. He's got to get rid of that entourage, though. I mean, the Butcher and the Blade and Bunny, as much as I love Bunny, they're not doing anything for him. And Pentagon and Phoenix, they're not really doing anything for him. I think Eddie Kingston needs to be out on his own. But great promo from him. Great promo from Moxley as well. Really cool stuff. And I mentioned good psychology using Jon Moxley's move to get the win over Matt Sydal. I thought that was great. Again, I'll never stop getting tired of hearing the crowd sing Judas. I think that's just so cool. As much as Jericho annoys me, I thought that's really cool. Neat to see Eric Bischoff. That was cool, even though the angle that he was in is stupid. Let's see. Happy for Serena Deeb as the NWA champion. That's cool. I mentioned earlier, I think Serena Deeb is a terrific talent, and she deserves the accolade. So congratulations to her for that. And then a fantastic match to close the show with Kenny Omega and Rey Fenix. That was great. Also, I will say, Omega having the AAA championship. I'm sorry, the match was Omega and Pentagon Jr. But having Omega with the AAA championship, the title that he won against Rey Fenix, was a really nice touch. I really like that. AEW needs to do more of just great wrestling matches because they actually produce some really good wrestling matches. Just not that other stupid crap because they're really terrible at the out-of-the-ring stuff. And that's the Thoughts of Dericho for this week. My final thought is, as always, ladies and gentlemen, within 1 week, we may be facing one of the most important elections in the history of our country. Go out there, do your part, whatever side of the fence that you're on. Make your voice heard. Vote, vote, vote.
This has been the Thoughts of Dericho. You're smarter now, man.